Heavenly Stories.
In the heart of a troubled kingdom, far from the bustling streets of Babylon, Nehemiah received news that shook him to his core. Jerusalem, the city of his ancestors, lay in ruins. Its walls had been broken down, its gates burned, and its people scattered, living in fear and insecurity. For Nehemiah, a cupbearer to the king, this was more than a distant report. It was a call to action, a call to restore not just a city, but a sense of identity and hope for his people. He spent long hours in prayer, kneeling before God, seeking guidance. Nehemiah understood that the task ahead was not merely architectural. It was spiritual and moral. The walls of Jerusalem were more than stone and timber. They were symbols of protection, dignity, and divine promise. Rebuilding them would require courage, strategy, and unwavering faith. When the king noticed Nehemiah's sorrow, he asked why his cupbearer looked so troubled. Nehemiah's response was both respectful and bold, explaining the devastation in Jerusalem and his desire to return and rebuild the city. With the king's blessing and letters of safe passage in hand, Nehemiah journeyed toward Jerusalem, each step filled with determination and prayer. He knew the path would be dangerous. Enemies lurked, ready to oppose anyone who dared to strengthen Jerusalem, but Nehemiah's heart was resolute. Upon arrival, Nehemiah did not reveal his plans immediately. He spent several nights walking through the rubble and broken gates under the cover of darkness, assessing the damage firsthand. He saw walls fallen to dust, gates smashed and rusted, and families living in fear among the ruins. The sight weighed heavily on him, but it also fueled his determination. He called the leaders together, speaking with conviction and clarity. "We have been called to restore what has been lost. Every stone we lay is an act of faith. Every gate we repair a declaration of hope," he said. Nehemiah's words ignited a spark among the people. Though weary and disheartened, they began to see the vision he held. He assigned tasks carefully, organizing families and workers into teams responsible for specific sections of the wall. Some carried stones, others mixed mortar, and some kept watch for potential threats. It was not just a rebuilding of walls, but a building of community, trust, and shared purpose. The opposition came swiftly. Sanballat and Tobiah, leaders from surrounding regions, mocked and threatened the workers. They sought to instill fear, spreading rumors that the project would fail, that the city could not be restored. Many trembled at these threats, but Nehemiah stood firm. "Do not be afraid of them," he encouraged. "Remember, the Lord is with us. Every hand that builds is guided by his strength." Nehemiah led by example, working alongside the people from dawn to dusk. He prayed constantly, asking for guidance and protection, and reminded the community that their labor was as much spiritual as it was physical. He encouraged everyone to trust in their purpose and in each other, emphasizing that unity and perseverance would overcome the fear that sought to divide them. By the end of the first week, some sections of the wall had already begun to rise. The people's confidence grew with every stone laid. Children watched their parents work with pride, and elders offered wisdom to guide the laborers. What began as a daunting mission was now a collective endeavor fueled by faith, resilience, and hope. Nehemiah understood that leadership in crisis was not about commanding from afar. It was about walking among the people, sharing their burdens, and inspiring them to believe in what seemed impossible. As the first part closes, Jerusalem's ruins were no longer just a reminder of loss. They were the foundation of a new beginning. Nehemiah's leadership, grounded in faith and determination, was lighting a path forward. And though the journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, the people could already feel a shift. The city and their spirits were beginning to rise once more. As the days passed, the rhythm of rebuilding became the heartbeat of Jerusalem. Nehemiah moved among the people constantly, his eyes sharp for both progress and potential danger. The walls were slowly climbing from the rubble, but every stone carried weight, not just in size, but in the courage required to lay it. Families worked side by side, hands blistered and backs aching, yet the air buzzed with purpose. The city that had long been silent with fear now hummed with determination. Yet challenges emerged with equal intensity. Sanballat and Tobiah, seeing the momentum, intensified their schemes. They sent messages mocking Nehemiah, trying to lure him into compromise or despair. Some letters implied betrayal from within, others threatened violence if construction continued. Even the bravest of workers felt a shiver of doubt, questioning whether the walls could truly be completed under such constant pressure. Nehemiah responded not with anger, but with strategy and prayer. He called his leaders together each morning, carefully reviewing the work and the threats. "Do not be intimidated," he said, his voice firm but encouraging. "We are building for something greater than ourselves. The Lord sees our efforts, and no scheme from outside can weaken what he strengthens from within." Then, he set a new plan in motion. The workers were divided into shifts, each segment of the wall assigned to families who would both build and defend it. Armed guards were stationed along key points, ready to respond at a moment's notice, blending security with construction. This approach strengthened more than just the walls. It built trust, camaraderie, and shared responsibility. Children helped in small ways, carrying baskets of mortar or holding ropes, while elders offered wisdom, encouragement, and prayer. Everyone had a role, everyone was seen, and everyone was needed. The sense of unity became a shield, not just for the walls, but for the spirit of the city. One evening, Nehemiah stood at the unfinished gate of the city, observing the workers as the sun dipped behind the hills. The light painted the crumbling stones gold, and he could see both the fragility and the potential of what was being rebuilt. He prayed quietly, asking for courage and guidance. He knew that leadership was tested not in moments of peace, but in times of tension and fear. And Jerusalem was entering such a test. The next morning brought new challenges. Spies had been spotted near the eastern wall, and rumors of attacks spread quickly. Some families wanted to stop work to protect their children and livestock. But Nehemiah moved swiftly, speaking directly to their fears. "Every moment we hesitate is a moment the enemy wins," he said. "We build not only for today, but for tomorrow, for generations who will walk safely within these walls. Trust in God, trust in each other, and keep building." Inspired by his words, the people pressed on. Even those who had been doubtful joined the effort, carrying heavy stones, mixing mortar, and repairing gates. The sense of purpose overshadowed fear, and the walls began to take shape faster than before. Every repaired section was a triumph. Every stone laid a testament to resilience. Nehemiah's leadership was evident in the balance he maintained. He was vigilant against threats, but also nurturing and empowering his people. By the end of the second week, Jerusalem's skyline had begun to change. The walls, once a distant dream, were visibly rising. Nehemiah reminded the workers that the task was more than physical. "These stones protect more than our homes," he said. "They protect our faith, our families, our legacy. And every stone we lay is a step toward fulfilling God's promise." The people nodded, feeling a renewed sense of destiny. Part 2 closes with a city in motion, its people united in purpose and heart. The walls of Jerusalem were no longer just remnants of destruction. They were symbols of determination, leadership, and faith. And while threats still lingered beyond the hills, inside the city, hope had taken root. Nehemiah's vision was spreading through every street, every home, and every heart willing to believe that Jerusalem could rise again. The days grew longer, and Jerusalem's walls continued to rise from the ruins, each stone a testament to determination and faith. Nehemiah moved tirelessly among the workers, offering guidance, encouragement, and practical solutions. He understood that leadership in crisis demanded both vision and presence. Seeing the fear and fatigue in the eyes of his people, he reminded them constantly, "This is not just a wall of stone. It is a wall of hope, a wall of protection, a wall of promise. Every hand that builds is a hand that defends." Despite the growing momentum, opposition did not relent. Sanballat and Tobiah grew more aggressive, spreading rumors designed to sow distrust among the workers. Some whispered that Nehemiah had ulterior motives, while others feared that the city would never withstand an attack. Even some leaders began to question the feasibility of finishing the wall. But Nehemiah refused to let doubt weaken their resolve. He called the community together, speaking with a mix of authority and compassion. "Do not be discouraged by whispers or threats," he said. "God has brought us this far, and He will bring us further. Focus on what we can do today, and trust that tomorrow will follow His plan. Nehemiah implemented new strategies to ensure safety and efficiency. The workers were arranged in teams, each responsible for a specific portion of the wall. Armed guards were stationed alongside builders, creating a seamless balance of defense and construction. Families worked together, carrying heavy stones, mixing mortar, and repairing gates. Even the elderly and children found ways to contribute, offering prayers, encouragement, or small tasks to support the effort. The sense of unity strengthened the city's spirit, making fear lose its grip on hearts that had once trembled. One afternoon, as a sudden storm swept through Jerusalem, Nehemiah saw an opportunity to teach resilience. Torrential rain pelted the workers, drenching them and washing away some of their progress. Many were ready to give up for the day, exhausted and frustrated. But Nehemiah climbed onto the rubble, raising his voice above the storm. "The storm may challenge us," he shouted, "but it cannot break the spirit of those who build with faith. Come back tomorrow, and we will repair what has been lost. Nothing can stop a people determined to reclaim their home." His words carried weight. The next morning, the community returned with renewed vigor. They repaired washed-out sections, reinforced weak points, and continued their relentless progress. Nehemiah's example inspired them to keep moving forward, showing that leadership was not just about strategy, but about courage, perseverance, and trust. He celebrated small victories with the people, recognizing each effort as a step toward the greater goal. At night, Nehemiah often walked the walls alone, lantern in hand, praying for guidance and protection. The city slept beneath him, unaware of the countless challenges that awaited, but feeling the presence of hope that had begun to stir among them. He reflected on the obstacles they had already overcome, the ruin of the city, the skepticism of its inhabitants, the mockery and threats from enemies. And yet, the walls continued to rise. The people were learning that faith combined with action could move mountains, or, in their case, rebuild walls. By the end of Part 3, significant sections of the wall had been restored, standing tall against the surrounding landscape. Jerusalem's skyline was transforming, a visual reminder that determination and unity could overcome despair. Nehemiah knew that the journey was far from complete, but the momentum was undeniable. Fear had not defeated them. Doubt had not silenced them. And with every stone laid, the city drew closer to fulfillment, each brick a testament to faith, perseverance, and the leadership that inspired a people to believe in the impossible. As Jerusalem's walls began to take shape, the city pulsed with energy and determination. Nehemiah walked along the work sites every morning, observing the people with keen eyes. Each day brought new challenges, but also progress. He saw families lifting stones together, children carrying small loads of mortar, and elders offering wisdom born of experience. The sight filled him with hope that this city, long broken and vulnerable, could rise again. But opposition was never far. Sanballat and Tobiah, alarmed by the progress, escalated their tactics. They sent envoys and messages laden with ridicule and intimidation, seeking to shake Nehemiah's confidence and fracture the unity of the people. Some whispered that their leader was overreaching, others feared retaliation. Yet Nehemiah remained steadfast, relying on both faith and careful planning. "Do not be distracted by their words," he reminded the workers. "Our eyes are on the task before us, and our hands are guided by God." Nehemiah strengthened the city's defenses strategically. Teams of builders were paired with armed guards, ensuring that construction could continue even under threat. Gates and towers received special attention, as they were both vulnerable points and critical symbols of Jerusalem's protection. Families were assigned specific sections of the wall, fostering ownership and accountability. No stone was laid without purpose, no action without vigilance. This organization not only increased efficiency, but also inspired a sense of empowerment among the people. They were building more than walls. They were reclaiming their dignity. One afternoon, a messenger arrived with news that threatened to unsettle the workers. A nearby army was rumored to be advancing toward Jerusalem. Panic began to ripple through the crowd. Mothers clutched their children, men tightened their grip on tools, and doubt crept into the hearts of even the most devoted builders. Nehemiah responded immediately, speaking calmly and decisively. "We will not be driven by fear," he said. "If the enemy comes, we stand together. Every stone we lay, every gate we repair, strengthens not only our city but our resolve. Trust in the Lord and trust in one another." Inspired by his courage, the people returned to their work with renewed energy. Even under the shadow of potential attack, they pressed forward, carrying stones, repairing breaches, and reinforcing gates. Nehemiah often joined them in lifting heavy loads, proving that leadership was not distant or detached. It was in the sweat, the prayers, and the shared struggle. The city learned through action that faith paired with effort could overcome fear, that perseverance could defy threats, and that unity was more powerful than intimidation. Night brought quiet reflection. Nehemiah walked the walls alone, lantern in hand, surveying the progress and praying for continued guidance. The city slept, yet the walls spoke of vigilance and commitment. He thought about the obstacles they had faced, the ruins, the mockery, the looming threats, and he marveled at the resilience of the people. Each day, the walls climbed higher, and with every stone, hope grew stronger. By the end of Part 4, Jerusalem had transformed from a city of despair to a community united by purpose. The walls, though incomplete, were a visible testament to what determination, faith, and inspired leadership could achieve. Nehemiah knew the journey was far from over. Dangers still lurked, and the work ahead would test the people's resolve. Yet, the spirit of Jerusalem had awakened. The citizens now understood that they were not rebuilding merely stone and mortar. They were reclaiming their identity, their faith, and their future. Nehemiah stood atop the partially rebuilt walls, his gaze sweeping over the city below. Dust rose from the workers' labor, the rhythmic sound of hammers and chisels echoing in the morning air. The walls were taking shape, yet the greater challenge lay not in stone, but in the hearts of the people. Fear and doubt still lingered, and Nehemiah knew the task ahead required unwavering faith, sharp strategy, and persistent courage. The people of Jerusalem were tired. Years of oppression and exile had left them wary, their confidence fragile. But Nehemiah's presence was a beacon of hope. He moved among them, encouraging every hand that worked. "Each stone you lay is more than construction," he reminded them. "It's a statement of faith, a declaration that Jerusalem will rise again." His words sparked determination, even in those whose hope had begun to fade. Opposition, however, remained relentless. Sanballat and Tobiah continued their schemes, sending messages filled with lies, ridicule, and threats designed to intimidate. Some workers hesitated, their hands shaking, hearts heavy with fear. Yet Nehemiah refused to let anxiety spread. He organized the people into teams, pairing builders with armed guards, so that every person was protected while contributing to the work. Families worked together, lifting stones, mixing mortar, and repairing gates. Each effort became an act of both construction and defense, blending physical labor with spiritual resilience. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Nehemiah called the elders and leaders for counsel. "We face enemies who would see our work undone," he said, pointing toward distant ridges. "But we will not be afraid. Fear is not our commander, faith is. God has brought us this far, and he will guide us further. Stand strong and continue building." His words settled over the assembly like a shield, renewing courage and focus. That night, Nehemiah walked the walls alone, lantern in hand, reflecting on the city's progress. The gaps in the walls seemed smaller in the glow of the moonlight. Each stone laid a symbol of resilience and determination. Children peeked from windows, parents called out encouragement, and even the elders joined in small acts of labor. The city itself became a living testament to Nehemiah's leadership, a community united in purpose, undeterred by threats, driven by faith. In the following days, construction accelerated. Nehemiah lifted stones alongside his people, blending example with encouragement. He reminded them that the task was as spiritual as it was physical. "These walls protect more than land," he said. "They protect our identity, our faith, and our future. Every stone is a prayer in action." The enemy's tactics grew bolder, but the people's unity held firm. Rotation shifts, armed guards, and community vigilance ensured that work continued without interruption. Doubt lost its grip as workers, families, and elders shared in the effort. Stone by stone, the walls rose, stronger than ever imagined. Jerusalem was becoming more than a city. It was a symbol of resilience, faith, and determination. By the end of Part 5, the city was alive with hope. Though the walls were not yet complete, the spirit of Jerusalem had been renewed. The people walked with heads held high, their efforts transforming fear into courage, doubt into determination. Nehemiah's vision was no longer his alone. It had become theirs. Opposition still loomed beyond the hills, but inside the city, a new energy thrived, a collective belief in the power of faith, perseverance, and community. The morning sun rose over Jerusalem, casting golden light across walls that had once been rubble. Nehemiah stood at the highest point, surveying the city with a mixture of pride, relief, and reverent awe. Months of tireless work, prayer, and unwavering faith had brought them to this moment. The walls, once broken and abandoned, now stood firm and complete, a testament to courage, unity, and divine guidance. The people of Jerusalem gathered along the newly restored walls, their eyes shining with joy and wonder. Children ran freely across the open streets, their laughter echoing through the city, while elders and families touched the stones, feeling the solidity of their labor and the protection it offered. Nehemiah walked among them, shaking hands, offering words of encouragement, and quietly thanking God for his guidance. The city was alive with celebration, yet there was a profound sense of humility, an understanding that this achievement was not by human strength alone. Sanballat and Tobiah, whose schemes and threats had tried to halt the reconstruction, had been proven powerless against the resolve of a united community under a faithful leader. Nehemiah had not only rebuilt the walls, but he had also restored hope, confidence, and identity. The people had learned that leadership meant more than giving orders. It meant walking with your people through adversity, sharing in their burdens, and inspiring them to believe in something greater than themselves. Nehemiah called the city's leaders and citizens together for a dedication ceremony. He spoke from the steps of the highest gate, his voice carrying across the gathering. These walls are more than stone and mortar. They are a symbol of what we can achieve together, guided by faith and strengthened by perseverance. Every hand that built, every heart that trusted, has contributed to this miracle. Remember this day, for it is proof that hope, courage, and unity can overcome fear and opposition. The people cheered, tears glistening in their eyes. Songs of praise rose from the crowd, blending with the sounds of the city coming alive once more. Nehemiah walked through the gates, observing the thriving marketplace, families gathering in safety, and children playing where ruins had once stood. The city's heart was beating stronger than ever, and he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. In the following weeks, Jerusalem began to flourish. Trade resumed, homes were repaired, and community life thrived. The walls were not just protective barriers, they were symbols of resilience, faith, and shared purpose. Nehemiah continued to lead, teaching the people to remain vigilant, compassionate, and faithful. He emphasized the lessons they had learned, that perseverance in the face of adversity, unity in the face of opposition, and trust in God's guidance could overcome even the most formidable challenges. The story of Jerusalem's reconstruction spread far and wide, inspiring neighboring communities and future generations. The people remembered how fear had been met with courage, how doubt had been met with faith, and how destruction had been met with tireless effort and divine reliance. Nehemiah's leadership had transformed a city of despair into a beacon of hope, and the lessons of that transformation would echo through time. As Part 6 closes, Jerusalem stands not only as a fortified city, but as a living testament to the power of determined leadership, community solidarity, and unwavering faith. The walls Nehemiah rebuilt were more than physical. They were spiritual, moral, and symbolic. And in every stone, the people saw a reflection of what could be accomplished when hope, courage, and unity guide the hands and hearts of a determined people. The city had risen, stronger and wiser, ready to face the future with confidence, faith, and a renewed sense of purpose.